wholesaling is not a real estate business. It's a sales and marketing business. So a lot of wholesalers, the reason why they don't have as fast as success as they would like in the beginning is because they're treating it like a real estate business where there's a wholesale deal posted, there's a buyer. But the thing about cold calling is you could literally pick up your phone and be in touch with a motivated seller today. It's the fastest way. Success in wholesaling is 80 to 90% mindset and 10 to 20% education. You could buy all the courses in the world, right? But if your mind ain't right, your wallet's not going to be right. And that is actually caring about people, caring about solving problems, because we've had times where sellers have said, we're going to go with you. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, you had an offer that was like 20K higher from this other person.
Chris Logan joins me here again. You haven't been here for a while, Chris. This is going to be fantastic. I really appreciate it. You could look for virtual wholesaling made simple. But Chris, is there any particular place they can find you? Like, where do you want to people direct?
Yeah, great. It's great to be back, Jack. I'm so excited to share some nuggets and things I've learned with your audience here. So if anyone wants to find me, I'm most active on Facebook. My handle on there is Chris Logan, REI, CHRIS LOGAN REI. And it's the same across Facebook and Instagram.
So I'll have that showing up across the bottom of the screen as we're talking here throughout the episode. Chris Logan, REI. Really appreciate this. We're talking about the title of this episode before we hit record, and we're going to say this is going to be the baby steps towards virtual wholesaling. This is long overdue, Chris. I really appreciate us going through this. So
yeah, it's going to be fun.
If you want Chris's origin story, I'm going to point you to the previous episode. I'm going to try to have a link for that in the episode as well. We're going to mostly focus on this type of content today. So just to dive right in, let's start things off. Before they even consider wholesaling, what should they know?
Yeah. So before you even consider wholesaling, it's really important to understand why wholesaling, right? So a lot of people, when they first get started in real estate, they know they want to make money in real estate. They know they want to have success in real estate. They just don't know how to go about doing it. You know, they're told that being a landlord is the only way to create wealth in real estate. They're told that fix and flipping, like the guys on HGTV, like that's the best way to make the most money. Then they go online, do a little search, and they see things like creative finance, like owning houses, taking over the mortgage payments, and they just get thrown into this spiral where they're like, what is going on? There's just too many methods to get going. Where should I start first? The number one way for them to start is wholesaling real estate. The reason why wholesaling real estate is the number one way to start is because it requires zero of your own personal funds to be able to get deals done, right? In the beginning, you're new, you're learning real estate, and you don't want to be taking money from your 401k or your bank account that you've saved up for retirement or you saved up, right? And throwing that into a property, just crossing your fingers and hoping everything works out, right? Typically what I see when people start off by fix and flipping properties is they usually lose money on the first deal because they overestimate the repairs, underestimate the repairs. They overestimate the value of the property, underestimate it. And then on buying and holding properties, they buy properties assuming that it's a good deal they bought without really knowing that. They buy properties assuming that the tenant's going to be a perfect tenant. He's going to pay his rent every month. They're not going to damage the property. And we're in this like rainbow world of everything being perfect, right? Unfortunately, that's not the reality of the world we live in. And wholesaling lays the foundation for how to be a successful real estate investor, right? So let's first talk about what wholesaling is and what it's not. Okay. So wholesaling is not a real estate business. Okay. It almost has nothing to do with real estate outside of it being the widget that's involved in what you're marketing, right? Wholesaling is not a real estate business. It's a sales and marketing business. So a lot of wholesalers, the reason why they don't have as fast as success as they would like in the beginning is because they're treating it like a real estate business. They're worried about running numbers on repairs. They're worried about making sure that it's a good deal for their buyers and they have good margins in there and all these things, right? And none of that matters, right? So wholesaling is a sales and marketing business. And for those who are listening who don't know what it is, here's a quick breakdown of how that works. So as a wholesaler, we do marketing to find the worst homes in the best neighborhood, right? Then what we do is we get in touch with these homeowners who are motivated to sell because obviously the property condition is weighing on them. There's some type of motivating situation, a life event that's causing them to want to sell. Maybe someone passed away. Maybe the house caught fire. Maybe that the property's vacant. But really, there's just a distressing, motivating circumstance that they need to sell, right? Seller. And let's for a moment imagine the seller says they would be willing to sell for 150,000, right? We agree to that because we know we already have a buyer for this property, right? That's willing to pay 165,000, right? And so what we do is we put a contract in place with the seller, standard as is purchase agreement, and then we fill out another piece of paper with our buyer called an assignment of contract. Our contract with the seller to the buyer for a fee, and the difference between the 150 and the 165, at $15,000 is what we walk away with on the day of closing, which typically takes 2 to 4 weeks. So wholesaling, because you're not investing any of your own personal funds into the deal, it's virtually impossible to lose money in wholesaling. It shows you what a good deal looks like and a bad deal looks like. So when you've done it long enough and you start getting ready to buy properties for yourself in the future, you can make more confident buying decisions.
Well, some people are going to be hearing this now. This sounds great.
Yeah.
There's a $15,000 spread on that deal.
Yeah.
How do they find it? Who are they marketing to? How are we going to find that property?
Yeah. So let's start with baby step number one, right? So baby step number one, before you can start marketing for sellers, the first thing that you need to do is identify where you're going to market to, what territory you're looking to start in, right? And I have a very simple 2-step formula for identifying the best territories, the wholesale houses anywhere in the country. You want me to dive into that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Step number one, and this can be done with a free tool called Google, probably heard of it. So the first step is going on Google. And I find that most people either want to look into their local area to see if it's a good place to start wholesaling virtually. That's exactly what I did. Or there's another state or county they're looking into because maybe they've had family there, maybe they used to live there, maybe they have friends that live there, or they're just interested in that area for some reason. It's someplace they've always wanted to visit, right? So that's your starting point. So that's ground zero, right? So first thing you do is you go to Google and you type in that county, wherever you're looking to start first, and then the state, and then population size. And then what's going to happen is Google's going to tell you the population size that's in that territory. And what you're looking for is a minimum population size of 250,000. Because I find that anything less than 250,000, you're going to be more of like a rural type of population, an area there. You may not have a problem getting sellers to say yes, but you're going to have a problem getting those deals sold to buyers, right? So we like to focus on the major metropolitan areas where there's lots of sellers that are looking to sell, lots of buyers looking to buy, and it becomes easier to get deals under contract and get them sold, right? So the second step is going to Google again and then typing in the county and then the median home price. Now, if there's people listening who don't know what the median home price is, if you picture houses on a timeline with the cheaper houses on the left that are like 50K and less, and then the multi-million-dollar house on the right, the opposite extreme, the one in the middle is the median home price. It's the most popular type of home being bought and sold. It's the one that everybody can afford for the most part. And we want that to be a minimum of $200,000, right? So you're going to find that. And if you have that combination where you have a 250,000 population size and then a $200,000 minimum median home price, then you have all the makings of a winning territory. And that's where you'd start first.
Yeah, that's really good insight. You know, we're going to eventually get into this, but I particularly want to talk and touch on the virtual aspect of this. Let's say you're starting to market into an area, and I'm guessing, what are you using? Pay-per-click or maybe direct mail? Are you still
Yeah.
using some of that? Virtual assistants? What are you seeing right now as the trend regarding that? It seems like some of this comes and goes.
Yes. So there's one piece that I'd like to answer, if that's okay, before we get to that, because I do wholesaling a lot differently than a lot of other people do. What a lot of people do is they pick a territory, and the logical next step is like you shared, like, okay, how are we going to reach out to these sellers, right? But what we believe and how we've had the most success with this is we actually flip wholesaling, right? Where instead of finding our seller first, we find our buyers first, right? We use what's called our FYBF method, find your buyer first. So our first step, we go into a new territory is again identifying the territory, the two steps I shared you. The second step is joining all the local real estate investment Facebook groups in that territory, right? That's really what we want to do because we want to find out who's buying in that area. Now, this is super simple because once you start joining these Facebook groups, right, you're going to see other wholesalers posting deals in those groups, right? And then guess what? Where there's a wholesale deal posted, there's a buyer. So in the comments of that deal, you're going to see people say, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer. You want to add them as a friend, send them a DM, spark up a conversation. Hey, I saw that you were looking to buy a property recently in the blank area in the blank Facebook group. Just wanted to see if you're still actively buying right now, or if that was like a one off purchase for you. And they're going to say, nope, I'm still buying. Great. Can you tell me a little bit more about where you're buying properties, the types of buying properties, and like what range you're looking to buy properties in, right? Just have a human to human conversation. That's it. You find that information, they tell you, and you say, great. I just started a new marketing campaign. I'm about to get some houses coming your way. But in order to do that, I could go ahead and get you added to my VIP list. Is that cool? And they're going to say yes, right? If they say no, who cares? Move on to the next guy, right? We only want to work with people that want to work with us. So you add them to your list and you do that till you have a minimum of 25 to 50 buyers, right? Then once you have 25 to 50 buyers, now we're ready to move on to that third stage that you were talking about, which is the sellers.
Well, I'm really happy you're bringing it up in this order, and I'm glad you diverted me from that for a second because unfortunately, I find a lot of gurus
Yeah,
state the opposite in the fact
totally.
that find the deal and the money will come. I hear that a lot, and
Yeah.
frankly, I've never had that work.
No, me either. When I was first putting deals under contract at the beginning of my journey, I was putting everything under contract. I was putting farmland under contract, believe it or not. I was putting, $1 million houses under contract. I was putting like retail centers under. I had no idea what I was doing. But what I found out was in the very beginning of your journey, you don't know what a good deal is, right? But when we go to our buyers first, we find out what a good deal is from them, and then we take that criteria and start our marketing, we can have confidence that we're going to have good deals coming in because we already have that intel ahead of time. And there's a great chance that if we get that deal under contract in line with what they were looking for, they're going to buy that deal.
Another thing that I'm going to just ask you, Chris, I hope that you're actually telling your people to actually listen to the buyers because
Totally.
unfortunately, I have a number of wholesalers that call me on a regular basis, and they're doing exactly what you're suggesting. They're
Yeah.
asking for my buy box, my buying criteria. I give it to them, but then they start sending me stuff as if I never told them what I was looking for.
So like,
Like they
great.
don't
I
use it.
appreciate it.
So
Yeah.
I hope people use the information that's given you.
Yeah. So what I found with this, right, is in the very beginning, before you start really growing this thing, right, it's a lot easier to tailor your properties to exactly what your buyers want, right? Because your list isn't very big. So when you're like 25 to 50 buyers, super simple to tailor it to your list. On the opposite side, what I found is that when you really start to scale this and you start getting like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 buyers on your list, it becomes hard to send specifically what each of those people want. And so what we start doing is grouping the buyers by the county. And then buyers will call us sometime and be like, hey, this isn't what I'm looking for, but I appreciate you sending me properties. We're like, yeah, just ignore that one and keep on posting the next one. But the overall general theme is we're sending them what they want because what we've done, if you do this correctly, and it sounds like the people that are reaching out to you probably are not doing this correctly, so they should listen to this episode. But what you do is you find out what one person wants, the next person, you're going to start seeing there's a theme, right? You have a range of prices, you have a group of zip codes, and then you adjust your marketing to that average, whatever the sweeping average is for all of that. And then you shouldn't really have those types of conversations anymore because it's either going to work for them or not. If you send a property to them and it's in a different area than they want, you can ask them, hey, would you like me just to set up a separate search for you in this other area? They're going to say yes. And then you can just give them a call when something comes up.
And if you want to do something beyond what we're talking about, these baby steps here, you're going to want to find Chris Logan, REI. You can find him on Facebook or frankly, all of the social medias under that handle. If you found some value in what we're talking about so far, this show only grows because you share it. So please consider sharing this with one of your investor friends. A quick like and subscribe really goes a long way. So Chris, let's get back to the marketing. You said you were going to help us here now. Like we're
Yes.
going to find these sellers. How are we doing it?
Great. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways that you can market to find sellers, and all of them work, right? The key is identifying the one that works for you and the one that fits within your budget. But I'm a bit biased, and having tried all these different marketing strategies, there is one that I have seen that most people who are brand new have the most success with, and really just helps build the right skills for them so they can have long-term success, not just short, quick wins, right? So that method is cold calling, right? And the reason why I love cold calling is because you can get started cold calling anywhere from $0 to $300 a month, right? 0 if you're just calling like for sale by owners, people who have rental properties, things like that, or $300 a month if you're looking to get a dialer and a source of lists that you can get phone numbers for those sellers and then rapid fire call those people so you can, reach motivated sellers quickly. But the thing about cold calling is you could literally pick up your phone and be in touch with a motivated seller today. It's the fastest way. The problem with direct mail, high overhead, right? Number one. And then number two, you're kind of passively waiting for these sellers to call you, right? So what I believe is that picking up the phone is the fastest path to reaching sellers. Now, most people, when they first get started cold calling, they're going to suck on the phone. I'm just going to be blunt, right? But the key is, it's just like going to the gym. You can't not have been working out and then go to the gym and then expect to walk out the first time that you go with like a six pack. It's just not going to happen, right? So you're going to fall on your face. It's going to hurt. You're going to be sore, right? But the thing is, the more that you do it, you go 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, then you're rocking and rolling, because 90 days of talking with sellers over the phone is going to give you a 10-year education in sales and marketing.
Well, how many reps does somebody have to do to get there?
Yeah, great question. So what I typically recommend is for people to pick up the phone and dial for 2 to 3 hours a day. The reason for that is because that's going to put you in a position to have enough conversations to virtually guarantee you could have your first deal within 90 days of your first day that you picked up that phone.
Yeah, I need to stress that it's almost impossible not to do deals when you're doing that type of volume. I want to make sure people realize how much that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're talking 2 to 3 hours a day. In my mind, you could potentially be calling 60 to 320 people in a day, just dialing.
Yep.
One of the things that I think is, I'm going to just insert something here.
Go for it. Yeah.
One of the things I think is especially interesting is if you're dealing with a smaller community. I happen to be in a smaller community where Chris is saying 250,000. That's roughly the population I'm in that I'm doing this type of work. They still produce a white pages.
Mm.
And who typically has a landline phone? It's usually somebody with equity in their house. Just saying.
I don't know how you could get like a list of people that get mailed the white pages, which would be a great list. We could figure that out. That'd be an amazing list.
So, I mean, it's in those markets is what I'm saying, is that like, there's no cheaper way to have your list handed to you. You just start calling the white pages. Yeah. So you find a property. A lot of people are going to ask for a script. Like, I get that every once in a while. People ask, what do I say?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do actually for your listeners is I'm actually going to give your listeners our cold calling script. Is that cool?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through really quick what it says and how it works. And then if anyone would like that script, all you got to do is just go to the link, I guess, in the show notes, and Jack will take care of all that. Well, before I get in the script, I want to tell you that you have 7 seconds to capture someone's attention over the phone, right? From a cold, unsolicited conversation, right? Because they don't know who you are. They're not expecting your call. So you got to say something within 7 seconds to capture their attention. Otherwise, they're going to hang up on you. Okay. So before we get to that, what I want to tell you is there's some things you need to do to set yourself up for success. So first thing you need to do is sit up in your chair, confident, put your shoulders back, have a smile on your face. And once you have a smile, you have permission to dial. There's a reason why they say smile and dial, and it's simply because you can hear a smile through the phone. If you want to double check that, you can order a mirror off Amazon, put it in front of you. Highly recommend. It's going to drastically and dramatically increase the success of your calling session by having that. So that's the first thing that you want to do, right? Now, when you're having these conversations with sellers, you don't want to sound like you'd rather not be doing this. You want to sound like you're excited because, you're looking for a home in their area to purchase. You buy a lot of houses in that area and you're happy that you were able to connect with the homeowner that you were interested in buying their house. Now, you don't want to be the total opposite extreme of that, which is that crazy telemarketer that calls you that's way excited, right? Don't want to do that. That turns people off too. So the best thing to do, guys, is match their energy. Okay. If they're super excited, then you're super excited, right? If they're talking like this, then you just talk like this and you're calm, right? So matching that energy is like a really important thing. And you can figure that out in the first 7 seconds. So here's how we open the call. We say, hi, I hope I'm the right phone number. Is this John? And notice there are kind of stuttered there. I did that on purpose. And I also opened up with, I hope I have the right phone number. I did that on purpose too. I know I probably have the right phone number, right? But we don't want them feeling like it's like Big Brother, like we know their number and their information's out there. Some people are still really old school and they just live in a world of denial where none of that happens, although it's happening every day, right? So we say, hi, I hope I have the right phone number. Is this John? Yeah, who's this? Well, hey, John, you don't know me. And I realize that I'm just kind of calling you out of the blue here, but my name's Chris. I'm with a local home buyer in the area and recently came across your property and just wanted to see if you consider an offer on your property there, right? We're going through a short 7-second quick thing. We say who we are, why we're calling and how we can help them, right? And then from there, he's going to answer us whether he's interested in selling or not, right? So, hey, hope I have the right phone number. My name's Chris. I'm a local home buyer in the area and wanted to see if you consider a cash offer on your property there, right? And then he's going to say, yes, cool. So just to give you an idea how this works, we buy properties as is, we pay cash. You don't have to fix up the property or anything like that. There's no realtor commissions, nothing like that. And the great thing is you can sell them as is condition. You don't even need to like sweep it with a broom or anything before you hand it off to us. So for an offer like that, like how much do you think you take, right? Now, the majority of people, what they're going to say is they're going to say something like, well, you called me. Why don't you tell me what your offer is, right? So what we're then going to tell them is, I totally get it. But I'm sure there's a reason that you were even open to taking my call in the first place and get this far in the conversation, And then he's going to be like, well, I'm thinking I might be interested possibly in selling because so-and-so just passed away. So-and-so properties become a headache. So-and-so, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to reveal a little bit about their motivation. So at that point, you're going to say, hey, totally get that. So knowing that and knowing we're buying all cash, like, do you have like a range in the back of your mind that you're thinking of that you'd be open to today? Not holding you to anything, just get an idea of a range. And he's then like, well, yeah, I think I would be open to like 170. Okay. So I could learn a little bit more about the property. Now a good time to dive in and ask you a few more questions about it so I can come up with an offer and see if that works? Sure. Okay, cool. Then you're going to go through. And the most important thing you can do, and I hope it's okay, I'm going this deep. All right, cool. So the most important thing that you want to get, so many wholesalers get this wrong, but the most important thing you want to do is get what I call the 4 pillars of motivation, right? So when you're talking to them on the phone, getting the 4 pillars of motivation, and that is price, how much they hoping to get for the property, right? Timeline, how soon are they looking to sell? Why now? Why not a year from now? Condition, the condition of the property, right? So have they done any remodeling to the house in the last 5 years? And then lastly, the most important one, where most people mess up and where you should spend the most of your time, but oftentimes people spend the least, is motivation. You want to find out the why behind they're looking to sell. So when you have those 4 things, you have all the elements of a quality lead that you're prepared to be able to make an offer on and have a really great shot of getting that deal done. And with cold calling, I typically find it takes 25 to 35 of those types of leads to get one deal closed.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So let's say you got through the conversation and now we're talking about getting the property under contract. Where do they find the paperwork? What do we have to do next?
Yeah. So the next thing, as far as the paperwork goes, you want an as-is purchase agreement, right? So the as-is purchase agreement, I'll tell you what I did for my first deal, right? What I did is I went to Google and I just typed in as-is purchase agreement for my state and I downloaded it and then I just used it. It was a 15-page agreement. I had no idea what it said on there. All I saw was like, I'm filling in the purchase price, I'm filling in the deposit, I'm filling in that. And then that's it. Send it over. They signed it and good to go. Right. In the beginning, it's all about taking massive and perfect action. But if you want to make sure you have the right paperwork, you want to make sure you know what to say and things like that, then that's where investing in a coach or a mentor can really help. Because I can tell you, I would not at all have gotten as far as I've gotten in my journey without having done that in the very beginning.
Yeah. And we're talking about, Chris gave you an example of a $15,000 wholesale deal. And it's like to not spend a little money to know that you can start to earn that much per
Yeah.
transaction. Why wouldn't you?
Totally. And that's one thing that I really don't understand. People are like, well, I'm going to learn myself and then I'm going to take the money I make from a deal and invest in mentorship. But in the same breath, like I'll have talked to people who have said, yeah, I'm looking to get started in wholesaling and I got 3 deals under contract. Unfortunately, they didn't go through. I'm like, cool. Can you tell me about the deals a little bit? They'll tell me about the deals. And I'm like, bro, there was like $25,000 in money to be made there. And they canceled the deal over something so silly. And that gets me because
Mhm.
it's like they're tripping over dimes to pick up pennies, right? So they're like, I want to save money on coaching. So I'm going to do a deal myself. Yet they lose 3 times what the investment of the coaching costs because they didn't have the proper instruction in the beginning. So whatever you do, guys, whether it's for you learn from me or anybody else, just invest in your education because you're taking your valuable time that you're putting in outside of your job, right? That time is going to be like wasted time. We can always replenish money. Money replenishes, right? But it's time that we can never get back. So doesn't it make sense to start off on the right foot by actually knowing what you're going to do and knowing the activity you're going to pay off? I mean, that's just what made the most sense to me and the reason why that's how I started. I was like, if I'm going to invest my time, I have limited time. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to know the right things to do so I can avoid costly mistakes.
Well, we got the property under contract
Yep.
and everything is good.
Yes.
Now we have to deal with disposition, but we already have the buyers all lined up. What do
Yes.
we do here? Anything outside of that?
Yes. So there's one little step before we start marketing the property that we need, right? So we need photos of the property. So once we put the property under contract, right, we're virtual. So now we need to see what the property looks like and see how closely that matches up with what the seller said, right? So the next step is getting photos. Now, a lot of people get this wrong. Some people try to have the sellers take photos. And if you've ever seen a seller take photos where you really don't want to do that, you're going to get pictures of like their beautiful vase they have or a blurry corner of a right side of a room or whatever, right? What you want to do is you want to partner up with a local realtor in the area, right? And we call these property inspectors. They're not formal inspectors. They're just going to take their iPhone or their Samsung phone or whatever. They're going to take it out to the property and they're going to take anywhere from like 50 to 100 pictures of that property, right? So you have a really good idea of what the property looks like. So now it's time to start our marketing. If you have a buyer's list of anywhere between 0, 25 or 50 buyers, you're hand calling every single buyer on your list to get this thing sold on top of sending an email out to this buyer's list with the information about this property. Now, something you have to be really careful about, wholesaling laws have changed, right? And there are certain states that you have to say certain things in your marketing so people know that you don't own the property and you're just selling your equitable interests, right? What you want to do is get a free MailChimp account, right? You want to take all those buyers that you got from the Facebook groups, put them into the MailChimp account, and then put together an email. You have the front-facing picture of the property, a little write-up based on what the seller told you. It doesn't have to be like a realtor type description. And then you have an asking price. You click send, and then people will start like reaching back at you through email. Hop on the phone with these people immediately. And then you want to find out what's got them interested in the property and what they'd like to do next. If they'd like to make an offer sight unseen, or if they would need to see the property in person to be able to do that. But mainly, I'm looking to discover one of three things. I'm looking to discover, is the person I'm talking to a cash buyer? Is it a realtor that has buyers who physically buy properties? Or is it a wholesaler who has buyers that physically buy properties? So we want to know the type of person we're speaking to, because that adds a lot of clarity to how you should move forward and to make sure everybody gets paid the right.
So you mentioned sending a realtor to take the photos. Like, are you
Mhm.
compensating them a little bit then?
Yes, totally. So this is a huge win-win for realtors because number one, they get paid for each property visit they do. We typically pay anywhere from 50 to $100 depending on the distance to the property. $50 if it's within 30 minutes or closer to 100 if it's like 45 minutes or longer for them to get to the property. We like doing that because realtors, they know how to take photos of properties. They do it every single day. The side benefit for them is they're also going to be overseeing our showings for the property. So when we get buyer interest, they're going to be overseeing the showings. And the cool thing is we allow them to network with our buyers and get business from them, right? And if they have a buyer they want to bring to that showing, they're more than welcome to do it. So that's why they want to do it. And that's why it really benefits everyone involved when they do that.
Hmm. So do you pay them a commission then at the end of the sale?
If they're just taking photos, no. We pay them a flat fee just to take the photos. That's all it is. It's grocery money for them. It's gas money, right?
Right.
They really enjoy that. The only way that we would pay them is if, let's say, we had a deal that we knew was going to be a little hard to sell, and we want to make sure we cover every possible way to get as many eyeballs on this thing as possible and a little extra motivation. We could tell realtors, hey, we'll give you $2,000 if you bring a buyer by X date, right?
Mm.
And on top of that, you can make whatever commission you want to add on top of our price.
Yeah, you mentioned they may do the showings. Like if somebody
Mhm.
needed to take a look at it, like do you
Yep.
compensate them the same amount then, like the 50 to $100 each time?
Yeah, same amount.
I see. Okay. Well, is there anything else outside of that then? Now we've sold the property
Yeah.
and we're
Now we
rolling in it.
exactly. So we've sold the property, right? The buyer went under contract. He signed what's called an assignment of contract with us, which allows him to take our position in the contract with the seller, right? And then close on that property. So now all we're waiting for is for the title company or real estate attorney, depending on whatever state we're in, to be able to close that transaction. One of the things I really recommend for people who are brand new getting started is to start in title states. The reason why you want to start in title states is attorney states can be very difficult. There's processes, attorneys want retainers, and it's very, very complicated. So to avoid all that, mainly focus on southern states and mainly focus on title companies. Northern states, there's some good northern states that you can market to, that you could wholesale in, but sometimes they can be very complicated, like New York, Connecticut. Avoid those two states at all costs. When it comes to wholesaling, it's very difficult to wholesale houses there. The main thing is making sure that it's a title state and things can just be easy breezy in those states. Once the deal closes, the title company will then go ahead and wire your assignment fee to you. You could be out with your family hanging out, at dinner. You could be out on the beach somewhere. You could be doing whatever you want to be doing. And then it's cool. You get like a little notification on your phone that a wire hits, and there's nothing cooler than that feeling.
Well, I'd like to spend a couple minutes, like
Sure.
we're talking about virtual wholesaling here.
Mm-hmm.
And you've kind of touched on that with leveraging realtors for photos and a few other things. Is there anything else anybody needs to be aware of when doing this type of work remotely?
Yes. So it's very important that when a buyer is going to be making an offer on your property, that you vet them really well, right? Because the only risk that happens sometimes in your virtual is that sometimes buyers will try to go around you because they don't have that relationship with you. Maybe it's a new area, they know you're not local, right? And so this is the reason why we have a realtor at every showing that we do, right? We never send the buyers to the property by themselves with the seller. You are asking for problems, okay? Because even though you have the property under contract with the seller, and even though legally they can't sell to anybody else, it doesn't prevent people from trying, right? And, there's some things you can do to protect yourself. That'd be kind of getting into the weeds. But at the end of the day, though, the best way to make sure that you are going to have success and have as few bumps in the road as possible is understanding the type of buyer you're working with. There are so many wholesalers out there that don't have integrity, and they just straight up telling you they're the buyer. And you're like, hey man, like, look, I'm a wholesaler too. Like, you can just tell me, like, you don't like, I just want to know. I don't care. We work with wholesalers. We love working with wholesalers, right? But I just need to know what your plan is for the property so I can set the right expectations and make sure this thing goes smooth so we all get paid. Cool. Oh man, I swear I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer. Okay. So you're physically looking to buy this with your money, no contingencies. Like, you're looking to buy it. Yes, I'm looking to buy it. Right. And then they back out on the day of closing because their buyer didn't close. That's why it's really important to just get very clear with people. And the way you can do that's very simple. Say, awesome, man, I love that you're interested in this property. Tell me, like, do you have any projects in the area that I could check out? I love seeing the before and afters. That's like a really big thing for me. I love supporting my buyers that way, even promoting some of their properties sometimes. Have any of those you can shoot over? Or if they say, oh, no, I'm mainly landlord rent. Cool, man. I'd love to see the types of properties that you have in your portfolio. Shoot me over one of the addresses so I can get a good idea of what you're buying. If they have a really long-winded response, that's a big indicator that they probably don't, and they're looking to wholesale. But if they're like, yeah, sure, I could shoot over a few addresses, no problem, So that's a big thing. And then outside of that, it's really understanding like how quickly it can close and the type of funds they're using. Because I typically find that the majority of buyers are going to use what's called hard money. It's like an investor mortgage for those who are listening, don't know what it is. And it's the approval on that is not based on personal credit or anything. It's just based on the deal, how good of a deal it is. It's based on the property itself. And so hard money lenders typically take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to close. So if you have a really tight timeline with the seller where you only have like a week left to be able to close, you're going to have to ask that buyer if they have any other source of funds they can use to close, because your closing date's coming up and you need to be able to close within a week. The best buyers in those cases are going to be cash buyers, but these guys have real cash, like money in the bank that they could just wire to the title company tomorrow and close on the transaction. And it's either their money or investor money that they've been lent to spend however they want when it comes to buying properties.
Well, Chris, I really appreciate this. This was wholesaling baby steps. I think we covered quite a bit of ground here in the
Yep.
last 40 minutes. Before we jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode, I'm going to ask one more time. Is there anything else we should have hit on?
I think that's pretty much it, outside of just one last thing. And the big thing I can tell you that separates, there's actually two nuggets that I want to share. So the first thing is mindset. Success in wholesaling is 80 to 90% mindset and 10 to 20% education. You could buy all the courses in the world, right? But if your mind ain't right, your wallet's not going to be right. That's something I learned from one of my mentors early on. This is why a coach is a good thing, because it can help you get out of your own way, get out of analysis paralysis and being stuck in the muck, right? And start taking action confidently, right? And then the second thing that I'd like to share is that there's two things that you can do to instantly put yourself in the top 10% of wholesalers, right? And that simply is focus and consistency. Most wholesalers are like, hey, is there opportunity in wholesaling? Yes, because most wholesalers are actually not good at what they do. Most wholesalers are not focused. They're focusing on 10 different things all at once, like 10 ways to do deals, 10 different ways to market to find sellers, and they're not getting anywhere, right? And then most wholesalers are not consistent. They have spurts of energy, and then they're like, oh, it didn't work, so I'm done. Not working for me, right? They're not committed. But the last cherry on top of this, and this is probably the biggest thing where we get deals over a lot of other wholesalers that makes the competition totally irrelevant. And that is actually caring about people, caring about solving problems, because we've had times where sellers have said, we're going to go with you. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, you had an offer that was like 20K higher from this other person. Like, why not just go with them? And I don't want to do business with him. I like you and I want to work with you. So let's do it. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to twist your arms. It's amazing the success that you can have if you simply care about people. If you help enough people get what they want, like, you'll get what you want, like, every single time. Don't be a jerk. That's the easiest way to have success.
Well, Chris, if you're ready, we'll jump into the rapid fire, close out this episode. But one more time, I'm going to point everybody to your Facebook page. Look for Chris Logan, REI. I'm going to have that as a clickable link in the show notes. But if you're ready, Chris, we'll jump in here.
Let's do it.
What lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
I'm different. They'll see everybody else that has success, and instead of just believing it's possible, they'll still wonder if it's possible for them.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Buy houses much sooner.
Do you have a book recommendation?
Yeah. So a book recommendation right here. This should be the first book that every wholesaler gets. And it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. This book here is so important. It changed my mindset with focus. The reason it took me 6 months to do my first deal is because I was trying all these different strategies. I was wholesaling. I was wanting to rehab. I was looking to buy rentals. I was doing sandwich lease options, right? And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I'd be looking at a deal for like an hour trying to figure out which strategy it could be. And instead of focusing on being a transaction engineer, like focus on being good at one thing, and that's wholesaling. And I had a deal within 30 days after I shifted my focus.
And finally, what single strategy or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact to you or your business?
That's a great question. Time-saving tool that I've implemented that has had the biggest time-saving for my business. Like, are you talking about like software? Are you talking about
It could be software. It could be.
Okay. Yeah. So hands down, one of the biggest things that's saved me a lot of time is time blocking on my calendar, right? One of my mentors shared this with me early on when I was in corporate America. He pulled me aside at a Starbucks. And I remember this day, I gave him my calendar. And he's like, man, you are all over the place. And this is the very beginning of my real estate journey. And he said, have you ever heard time blocking? And I'm like, what? So then he's like, let me show you. He grabbed my calendar, started with a highlighter, blocking off certain times. And he's like, put this schedule in place and then let me know how it goes. Within the next 30 days, I was in the top 10 sales reps of the entire country. And then it immediately impacted my wholesaling business because I was like, if this works there, it works here too. From there, I stopped trying to figure out how I could fit it all in. Everybody, when they're first getting into wholesaling, they're working a 9 to 5. They're like, how can I have success with this? Maybe I'm too busy for this. Can this work for me? But at the end of the day, it's just prioritizing the right activities so you know exactly what to do when you're going to be working in your business and you're not wasting time. Imagine if you could start every single day knowing exactly what you should be doing and when you should be doing it, how long you should be doing it, and why you should be doing it. Like, how much more successful could you be? How much more could you get done if you just simply organize your time in that way?
Well, Chris, I really appreciate it. I look for Chris Logan, REI on the socials. Hope you'll consider coming back again sometime. This was just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. It was a great time. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on the show. And I look forward to connecting with everybody when you reach out on Facebook.